Stevie, hi. Hello everyone on this Wednesday night, the early October. Yes, no, late September. So tonight we've got part 3 of the apprenticeship or apprentice editions that we've been doing. My cat's going to jump out. Oh, it's all good. Thought my cat was going to jump out the window then. So tonight we've got an interesting one. We've got second and third generation tattooers. Chris Rand, his father Dave Rand's been tattooing in Australia for I think around 40 years. Chris will be able to confirm that with us. Chris did his apprenticeship with his dad and his mum. They're like a crazy team that have worked together forever. And now Chris's wife also tattoos. Also Chris is now apprenticing his daughters. So it should be a really interesting one, a little bit of a different insight into how apprenticeships go through the time. So I'm just going to invite them all in. I'll invite you in first, Chris, and then I will invite the girls in. All right, bear with me. Hope everyone's well in Melbourne and Sydney, wherever you're watching from, and everyone's dealing with what we have to deal with the best we can. Here in New South Wales, there's Chris's one, Tunnel, and then we are going to hope that our good friends in Melbourne are going to follow on not much after us. Hey, Chris.
Look who you got.
Here we go. Oh, I've got to wait for the screen to drop. I hope I've got a surprise here.
Yeah.
Oh, Big D, Dave, how are you?
How you doing? Good.
You well?
Yeah, crazy.
Nice. Thank you for joining us, mate. I really appreciate it.
Couldn't have the 3 generations without one in.
You there? All right, I'm just going to invite the girls in again. See if I can get this to work. Sometimes with multiple connections, it takes a little bit to get it done. So I've sent you an invite, girls. So hopefully you both will join us any minute now. But yeah, here we go. Hi.
Hi.
Awesome. How's everyone been?
Good, thank you.
Cool. Thank you everyone for joining us. So I've got a few questions. I might even start with you, Dave, then go to Chris, and then go to the girls, if that's okay.
Yeah, fine.
Right, so Dave, why did you want to become a tattoo artist?
I was drawing tattoos from when I was probably about 12 years of age. I'd never seen a tattoo shop by then. And one day I went to Seaside, and there was a stall there, and Doc Price was tattooing out of there.
Amazing.
Daryl's tattoo was at the Seaside on the carnival, and it was like seeing God.
Yep.
Like being called. Tattooing was very small then, and he was probably the only one around at that time.
Yep.
And I found my home.
Nice. All right. So with you, Chris, why did you want to become a tattoo artist?
I was sort of toed and froed with all the art side of things while I was studying, but I came into my apprenticeship to try and pay back my dad for him sending me to uni. So
nice.
Then I'm still waiting.
He's still paying.
And so yeah, I just started helping up around the shop, and pretty soon Dave said, "There's an outline of a koi over there. You best colour it in because I'm gonna be busy." And then I never looked back, and I love it. I've always been around it since I was a kid, so it didn't feel strange to me to jump on.
Yep, cool. All right, girls. So now the question to you both, like you can work out who's going to go first. Why did you both want to become tattoo artists?
I think it's because it's just always been in the family. We've always grown up around it. So we've always seen the art aspect of it. We've always seen like the different effects it has on people and why people get them. So it's just like we've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I imagine you've all been very blessed to see tattooing, in its purest and be around it. It's just second nature. So it's super cool. All right. So to you, Dave, like this is probably an easy one because I think you said before, but did you do any art prior to tattooing? And that was you obviously drawing and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I did a lot in school, and I did a lot with the Boys Clubs of Wales.
Yep.
And I entered a few competitions with that, and I did well in it, but I couldn't take advantage of it because it meant going away from home, and I couldn't afford to do it basically. I had a bursary for art, but I couldn't follow through. And then just put it into the tattooing.
Cool. Cool. What about you, Chris?
Same sort of story as what the girls are probably going to say. You know, I always see my dad drawing, so from really small, there was always art stuff in the house. I'd pick it up, but I'd probably, you know, I went from motocross and played soccer, and so it was always there. It wasn't the dominant aspect of my life because I was, you know, little Aussie kid that had come from Wales, but just living the life, you know, and art was always in the background, and just I guess once I started in the shop, they really become dominant then.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So girls, were you doing any art prior? Like doing art, like say, for example, at school or just for fun?
Yeah, so both sides of our family is pretty artistic. So we got pretty lucky there, having like both on Chris's side and Karen's side, both pretty artistic. So from a young age, we were always given a pencil, given the opportunity to draw. Everything was very hands-on. There was never lack of creativity in our house. So it's always been pretty good.
Yeah, cool. One thing that I find really cool here is both you girls have got a really cool dad, and Chris, you've got a cool dad as well. So I think that's obviously, you know, when you've got like a role model, and you girls have got, you know, your granddad, when you've got this as a role model, it must, just have such an impact on what life can be and all that sort of stuff. I'm pretty envious. It's really cool.
Well,
so
his
right,
dad,
here's a tricky one.
Coolest. His dad was the coolest.
And
he couldn't draw anything, but he was the coolest. He was an old school staunch coal miner from Wales. I miss my dad.
He's nice. Hey, I bet he had a few Tom Jones records.
I don't know. No. He buried plenty of Dave's Rolling Stones ones, though.
There you go. There you go. Cool. So this is one maybe not so much for you, Dave, but you can answer it for, like, you know, when you were learning to tattoo and who was helping you. Like, the question is, coming from a tattoo family, has it been easy or hard taking advice? But when you were getting given guidance, Dave, I imagine back then any sort of advice was just like the holy grail.
You took scraps where you could get them.
Yeah.
You got tattooed by someone and they might, you know, let something loose, or, you know, there was no colour bottles with names on it. Like now tattooists say, you know, they are sponsored by someone and all that sort of stuff. Like years ago, they'd cut your fingers off if you left a label on a bottle, you know. And guys guarded their secrets so well, you know. You couldn't find out anything. You couldn't buy anything unless somebody introduced you. I was lucky when I found Doc Graham, because he was very generous with time and giving me advice. So he was my break into doing it all wrong to getting things, starting to get things right.
Yeah, and I would imagine Doc Graham, seeing you progress, you know, he would have got a bit freer with his information.
Yeah. Before, you know, he helped me out quite a lot, and then we've remained friends all right through. I'm still in contact with him regular, so
amazing.
Good influence on me, you know.
Yep. Well, here this can be a double-sided question. So, with Chris, did you find it hard taking advice from your dad? And Dave, did you find it or get frustrated giving Chris advice?
Well, I'll answer it first because he was really good.
Nice.
I give him a really hard, bumpy road. I give him really shit machines that needed constant adjustment and not the good stuff. I was too hard on him in a lot of ways. I didn't make it easy for him because I wanted to make sure that he wanted to do it.
Yep.
You know, I think he probably had it the hardest out of everybody I've ever had in the
Yep.
shop.
Yep.
It was probably harder for him.
Yeah. How did you find that experience, Chris?
I didn't know any different. I thought that that's how it was because tattooing
Yep.
was like that back then.
Yep.
Even though it was probably a little bit more open and freer than what Dave experienced, it was still old school. I remember going up, and I probably told you this story a million times over the course of our friendship, but I remember meeting Paul Braniff in the late 90s and discussing the fact that we had a computer in our shop, and it was an
Yep.
industry trade secret that we discussed in the back of a 7-Eleven, you know. So I didn't know anything different other than the fact that all my dad's work that I seen was just so bold and so strong, and so it gave me something to try and strive towards. But at the same
Yep.
time, I didn't want to be him Mark II. So
Yep.
I really concentrated on my monochromatic stuff early in my career and trying to look at people like Colin Gower and Paul
Yep.
Braniff for getting tips on how to get some grey wash shading and black and grey, you know, even looking at Jack Rudy's work, you know, just so I could do the stuff that he didn't want to do.
Yep. Yeah, cool. And back then as well, like black and grey was nowhere near as popular as it is today. No, there were, you know, those masters that you mentioned were, you know, few and far between. So no, that's cool. So what about you girls? Like taking advice from dad, or even taking advice for each other, being such a close knit family? Has it been a rocky road as well, or smooth sailing?
Well, me and Kristen have definitely had it different. I started tattooing 5 years ago, so Dave was my mentor. So it was very old school, I would say. It was it was tough, but it taught me a lot.
Yep.
And Kristen coming in like recently and things like that, and the tattoo industry definitely has changed, and how Chris is as a mentor is completely different as well. It's more so, I feel like in the industry, whether it's family or not, you have to respect your mentors.
Yep.
You just have to show respect and things like that, because they obviously know what they're talking about. They're giving you great advice. They're teaching you years and years and years of knowledge, and it's something that you appreciate.
Yeah, totally. So back to you for a minute, Dave. Like passing on that knowledge to Kiara, like teaching your son Chris as well. Like what a rare, amazing opportunity to have in life.
It is, but it's a delicate road. You know, you
Yep.
want to try and teach them, but you don't want to tread on their toes because they're family. It's a very difficult thing to do. You've got to be very cautious in it. Sometimes I wasn't very good at it, and other times it worked really well.
Yeah. Like I can relate to it in a much minor way. Like my mum's my bookkeeper for the business, and we butt heads a lot. And I have to say, all right, Mum, this is a business talk. Or if we're on a personal talk, she'll try and sneak in some business stuff, and I'm like, no, please, don't ruin it.
It's difficult. It's very difficult. It's the hardest thing to do. If you've got somebody who's not in the family and they're doing an apprenticeship, you give them more of the take it or leave it. Make them think about something. Sometimes tell them off so they go away and think about it. It's a bit more difficult with family because the trouble is it overlaps in all your life. You know what tattooing's like? It'll gobble your life up. It'll take you completely over. And when you're doing this, it's very difficult to keep that line.
Yeah. And Kristen, how have you found with Chris and Mum as well?
Yeah, in the shop I do get mentored by Chris a lot. He does help me with a lot of things, even from shaving people's backs to how to put the needle into the machine. But I do also get mentored by my mum, Karen, and also by Kiara. And I know that if I ever have any questions with anything, I can go to Dave as a resort as well. But I think I'm very lucky to have all my teachers like that. It is a bit challenging sometimes to have so many different teachers because everyone does everything differently. But I guess in that aspect, I'm still pretty lucky because then I kind of get to pick what works best for me.
Cool. How have you found this latest experience, Chris, of teaching?
Mate, I feel like I'm learning as much as I'm teaching, to be honest.
Awesome.
Like hats off. My wife takes a lot of, she should have a lot of credit for how the girls have turned out, you know, because she spent so much time with them and she really helped develop them artistically and in their personal life. They're like three sisters almost, you know, so that's really helped. But I mean, in my honest opinion and how I feel the industry is at the moment, the new entrants to the industry are coming in at a lot higher art level than the generations before. Some of the stuff that the girls can draw and paint, you know, there's no way I could do that at their age, you know, and hats off to them. So you sort of, for me, I'm like trying to just teach them a different medium rather than this is how this is how tattooing should be. I'm trying to give them confidence so that they can be their own artist and do their own thing, but try to still adhere to the principles of making a tattoo last and getting it in there nice and clean and bold, you know.
One of the biggest things that we've had, like in our shops over the years, is Sue, my wife, she's helped many of the apprentices that we've had to bridge the gap between their ability and bringing them up. She's drawn thousands of designs for people and helped the new artists to turn that drawing into a tattoo. Although she doesn't tattoo herself, she could have made a great tattooist, but she always wanted to help other people. And she's been a major factor in how our shops work now.
Yeah, like in my PhD that I'm studying at the moment, I've been investigating a little bit of the history of it. And as far as I can look anywhere, like my mum was one of the first people to be a professional studio manager and take appointments and, you know, and set up websites and, you know, do what a normal shop manager does now. She was doing that, you know, like in the late 80s and early 90s. So I'm actually trying to research to see if there's other ones like her out there. So if anyone knows, just reach out to me because I want to document all this stuff in my studies.
Yeah, amazing. And like you guys from, you know, I've been down the shop, you know, a few times over the years and you know, even lucky enough to get spot there. And it's a very well-oiled machine. It runs like clockwork. I've worked in a few shops like that over the years. Like, you know, I worked with the Braniffs up on the Gold Coast, which is another family business. You know, Paul, rest his soul. Robin was a tattooist. The two sons are as well. Raquel, the daughter, she was involved in the family business. And it definitely takes it to another level because from me looking at the outside, looking in, everyone's got such a vested interest in it. They're not just clocking off at 5 o'clock and then turning up the next day at 10. So I think in general, it helps elevate the structure of tattooing and the artwork all round.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's cool. All right. So the next one I've got down here, this will start with you, Dave, a little bit. Like I've written down, can you describe your training? So you mentioned Doc Graham giving you advice. Were you pretty much on your own?
Well, basically, I started off making tattoo machines when I was about 14, 15.
Wow.
I used to make them out of scale electric scars. I made rotary machines for probably 3 or 4 years and perfected them. I was doing an engineering apprenticeship from when I was 14, so I could make a lot of parts myself. I started making coil stuff up. Biggest problem I had with supplies, color, stuff like that, how to mix color properly, making needles. You know, I got sent in a lot of wrong directions too by different people, like silver soldering your needles and stuff like that. And I found a way of doing it and proved them that I could do it. But then I went with a friend to Doc Graham and he sold me a couple of good machines and helped me out with color mixes and stuff like that. And just by myself, and then I would go and work for him occasionally on a Saturday or something like that. Work from home mostly. Most people did then. I mean, when I first met Graham, he was in Nora Street in Cardiff, and he was the only guy in Cardiff, but he was working out the front of his house. A lot of shops were like that in the UK. Yeah.
I imagine when you got that odd Saturday to work with him, it must have been like, I've hit the jackpot.
Yeah. Well, even when I first came here, because Wollongong back then, I was the only guy who was tattooing in Wollongong, the Illawarra, in fact. It was a surfy town where everybody shut off at 12 o'clock on Saturday, and there was nothing to do on a Saturday. You would very rarely get a customer on a Saturday morning.
Wow.
And your big day was on a Thursday. You worked from like 10 in the morning till like 9 at night.
Yep.
I used to go and work for Dutchie on a Saturday.
Right.
Because he
Wow.
had plenty of work up there, and I worked for Dutchie on the Saturday for a few years, like when I first came here. The combination of what I'd already learned and then working with Dutchie brought me to another level as well, because he was a renowned artist in Sydney, and he really knew how to put the colour in. Good artist as well. Good plan a design. He was not a perfectionist as such, because he knew that if he didn't do an outline perfect, he could shade it and cover it and colour it and everything like that, and you wouldn't know any different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they used to put a little bit on speed as well as, performance.
Yep.
He helped me no end. He was a really good friend to me, and he brought me to another level again.
Cool. Just out of curiosity, how did that connection start with you and Dutchie, and then to him offering you a job on Saturdays?
Back in the day, if you moved into an area, first thing you did was find out if there was somebody else there. Believe it or not, he was the closest tattooist to me in Moorebank. So I went up, got a tattoo, talked to him, and asked him, was it okay? And he was really good with it. And he came down and visited me as soon as I set the shop up and helped me out with it.
Amazing.
It was a good thing. Because a lot of people had tried it in Wollongong, but Des Connolly used to have a place in Port Kembla.
Wow.
Yeah. Johnny Nash was there for a number of years.
Yep.
Vic Farr came into there just after John left. And Vic didn't stay very long. And I took over his old shop when I first came here in Port Kembla.
Yep. Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Hey, Chris, like I know you spoke a little bit about, just quickly, we've got a guy, Dazed, asking us if we can give him some advice on a tattoo. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're just talking apprentice stuff, but if you want to send me a DM after this, I'll do my best to help you. So with you, Chris, what was your, I know Dave said he put you through the ringer, so to speak, and a bit harder than normal, but to you didn't know any different. But what was the structure of your apprenticeship like over the years? Obviously, you started off colouring in that koi. Did you continue to colour pieces in before you hit outlines?
Yeah, it was Dave would do a lot of big outlines for me, but before I was able to even colour in that koi, I had to trace off every design off the wall.
Yep.
And a lot of the times that he would have killed me if I took the design down. So I had to get up on a chair and twist it around. And then to make it even better for me, he stuck a little tiny pen, like a big pen, up into like a furnace machine. And then I'd have to trace it with the machine, and I'd be on like this. And
nice.
Once I traced it off, then I had to come down and hand stencil it. And I basically had to do nearly everything in the shop.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's interesting because your dad was priming you up for contortionism. And before massage tables came along, tattooists were also contortionists.
3 Namco chairs, that's what you had to do to a back.
Yep. Cool. All right, girls, it's your turn now. So how would you describe your training? I know there's about 5 years difference, but was it on practice skin? Was it straight on people? Was it coils? Was it rotaries?
My apprenticeship is very different to Kiara's for all different reasons. So mainly because of COVID, my apprenticeship's been put on hold twice. But in that time, I get to practice on fake skins.
Cool.
So before that, when I was in year 12 for my HSC, I did my HSC work on fake skins as tattoos.
Yep.
So that did go into my apprenticeship a little bit with the practice.
Yep.
Then after that, Chris did make me wait a little bit till I finally tattooed someone.
Yep.
But then, that started with colour, then colour with outline and all different stuff like that.
Yep. Cool. And what about you, Kiara?
Mine was I think it was fairly old school. Fake skins were fairly new when I was starting out, so I think I tattooed on a fake skin once, and I did like a little bird on it. But besides that, it was like you have to do flash sheets, like hand-drawn flash sheets. You have to strip down everyone else's bays and set up for everyone. You have to get coffees, lunches, know how to clean everything, do the desk work, do all the designs for everyone, plus your own stuff like that. And then you got to sit down and tattoo when Dave can mentor you. It was a lot. It was a lot, and it prepared me for like everything, for having the shop that we have now, stepping up and things like that. Before I even started and I told them I wanted to start, it was like, are you sure you want to do this, Kiara? Are you sure? And I was like, yes. And all that persistence and all that, it was a lot of work, but it was all worth it. Like even at the time, there was another apprentice doing their apprenticeship with me, so it was kind of like survival of the fittest, and I'm not a competitive person and I'm pretty shy as well. But I ended up sticking it through, and he's not tattooing anymore. So
yeah, cool. Well, I imagine quitting was not an option.
No way. No, I'm not a quitter, and they don't like it if you quit. It's all or nothing. Yeah. Amazing.
All right. So this is like my next question, and we'll sort of modify it with you, Dave, because even though you can tattoo anything, Japanese is your go-to style. Why Japanese stuff over other styles?
Well, back in the early 70s and stuff, we were all doing swallows and hearts and stuff like that. And sometimes I get asked if I can actually do that. And I tell people I drew a shop full of designs when I was 15 to do that. But Ed Hardy came on the scene. Ed changed tattooing. He's one of the biggest influences that ever was. We had never seen anything like it. We were doing small pieces, and they were very small then. Most tattooing was very small. And Ed brought us Japanese tattooing, which was full bodies, full arms, thought out, great artwork, and the ability to make everything flow from one thing to another. Ed used to do blow waves and stuff like that, which is old school now, and everybody's gone to grey and stuff like that. But back then, that was the piece de resistance, so you wanted to do that. And you sort of saw it and thought, shit, I've got to do this. These guys are doing this brilliant work, and we are doing little hearts the size of a thumbnail, it's you have to change. So it kind of seduced you into doing something that was outside of your normal thing. And it takes a little while to go into it. I never researched any of it. I never had anyone who told me what anything meant. I just sat in my shop and tried to do what I could.
Yeah, and mate, you've done it so well. It's amazing. Chris sent me a picture earlier tonight of something you did probably in the 80s, I imagine. I was just like, man, mind-blowing, and just so powerful and solid. Like, I can remember in the early 90s getting the Aussie tattoo magazines, and I think there was a PTAA convention one, and I think all your work was plastered over the front cover or in one of the fold-out sections. I think Rod Naden, there was a couple of guys tattooed up. I think a lady named Cheryl that was tattooed as well, the Big Mermaid. Sure. Just mind-blowing stuff.
Well, I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was just trying to emulate.
But that's all we're all still doing.
And the Japanese stuff.
Yeah, it was amazing. So with you, Chris, do you have a favourite style? Or something that you want to specialise in, or you like more than others?
As I get older, I kind of want to be Dave Mark II. When I was younger, I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a part and parcel of the era of tattooists that I came through with, where
Yeah.
I'm really happy making the customer happy. So I
Yeah.
kind of do a bit of everything. So I've still got that balance between doing some black and grey and doing the big bold color. So I sort of flick between the two. But realistically, when I first started, it was all Cherry Creek Flash, and you go through the biomech era and the tribal era, and it sort of all these trends come and go, and you sort of come through having to do a little bit of everything. So
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy that variety still. But yeah, as I get a little bit older, I kind of gravitate towards the old boy a bit more.
And mate, it's cool. You can definitely see Dave in your work, which is amazing.
Thanks. That's a massive compliment.
So no, it's all true. All right. So Kiara, with you with 5 years now or a little bit more, like, do you have a favorite style, or are you going in one direction more than others?
So it's quite funny how it all worked out. Dave taught me as an old school traditional artist. That's what he taught me as. So that's what I was doing. And then to gain more customers and things like that, when you first start out, you kind of, like, Sue was like, this is come in, you're going to do this. So then you just build up customers and build up more styles and things like that. So as that kept happening, I ended up doing like fine line, outline, floral pieces, delicate pieces, things like that, little pieces with detail. And then people were just like, I like that. And that's kind of like where a lot of my customers come from. So it was purely accidental, but I'm fine with doing whatever I can because I just enjoy work. Like I love my job. I love making people happy. I love that that's a part of it all, changing people's lives, connecting with people and things like that. So it kind of happened accidentally with like the work that I have now that I'm more known for. But I'm really happy about it. Yeah.
It's an amazing style, like all this fine line stuff, little floral pieces or faces and animals. It's so mind-blowing. Like Dave will probably agree here. Like, you know, even my generation, when we first saw that, people would say, oh, that ain't going to last. But if it's done well, it will. Like, you know, Dave, you mentioned like Jack Rudy, like, you know, yourself, you've seen some of his tattoos that are 30, 40 years old and they're prime. They're really done really well.
At one stage, we have to actually do really big jobs with fine single needle because that's what everyone wanted.
Yep.
I used to put it in a bit hard, so it was like, oh, but
most of his clients end up on the floor with a single needle off him.
Dave goes the whole way through.
I used to get a lot of fingers.
Honestly, I've had Rhys tattoo my ribs. I've had Dave tattoo right in the same spot next to each other. And Rhys, you're such a gentleman. He tattooed my skull. He tattooed every element of my personality right through my skull.
He's exaggerating, don't listen.
No, it's not.
The only one that tattoos heavier than Dave is Sue, and luckily she didn't continue.
No.
She put it straight in my bicep and out the other side.
Oh, crazy. All right, so with you, Kristen, it's so young in your career. Have you got an eye on something you want to do, or are you just at this stage happy to learn it all?
At this stage, I'm learning everything that I can, so that I can have that skill set, so that like Kiara, Chris, Dave, if someone comes in and says that I want this, then obviously if someone can't do it, they can be passed on to me, or if they don't want to do it, because I need the experience and want the experience at the moment. But with my practice, I have been leaning more towards traditional if I had to pick a style. But yeah, at the moment, I'm pretty much open to try anything.
Awesome, cool. Here's a bit of a, like, it's relevant to you, Dave, as well, because, you know, you've got everyone in the family sort of, you know, underneath you. And the question is, like, do you feel pressure with the family name? So I imagine with you, Dave, you might not feel the same weight that Chris and the girls feel, but you might feel it in a different way of, you know, because the family name RAND Family Tattoos is held in such high esteem. How have you found that over the years?
Well, it hasn't affected me really, but
Amazing.
as you get older, you develop a whole new set of problems with your tattooing. You have to
Yep.
learn different ways to get around because your body starts to stiffen up, and perhaps your hand's not as loose as it used to be, and
Yep.
you have to change technique. Like Chris said earlier, I've never done anything to try and prove anything to anyone except make the customer happy.
Yep.
That's always been our thing. Sue's exactly the same. Chris is the same. The girls are.
Yep.
We just want to have people walk out and have it a really good experience.
Yep.
The kid that comes in and he's got his earphones in and he doesn't communicate, he doesn't get the experience. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of kids want to do it like that. They want to be on their phone. They don't communicate. They're missing out on something that
Yep.
tattooing was special at.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Like, I think that's true from my experiences in the shop. Like, irrelevant that you're all family members, the clients that when I've been there, the ones that don't have the headphones in, it is a family environment between the artists and the customers,
Yes.
which, you know, I'm from that same generation. I love that as well. It's so important.
You spend so much time with them. You get to know about the person. I mean, you get guys coming in and they're rough and ready and they're abrupt and rude, and you give them a good experience and it changes.
Yeah.
They change and they trust you, you know, and
Yep.
that's just as important as tattooing someone with a really great tattoo.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, 100%, 100%. How did you find it, Chris, over the years? Like, obviously, big set of shoes to fill, or big shadow. Your dad cast the big shadow.
Yeah, initially it was very daunting, like
Yep.
because he was just winning trophy after trophy, and then I just tried to do my own thing a little bit, and then at the Moorebank Club when PTA had a state show, we went head to head, and I actually beat him,
Oh,
and
he's
kept the trophy.
Don't listen.
Come on, I had more first places than you, and listen. It's not fair, but anyway, nah. Initially, yeah, it was. Now I feel like the meat and the sandwich because the girls can do things that I can't do. Dave can do things that I can't do. So I just try to do what I can do the best.
I can do so.
Yeah, yeah. And what about you girls on the other end? Like, how have you found it? You know, with obviously your mum, with Chris, with Sue and Dave.
Well, I think we've both had different experiences with it.
Yeah.
Like when I was younger in primary school, Catholic primary school, both parents tattooists, bad. That was like bad.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to see like that view change. And then like high school came and it was kind of like, oh, you're the tattoo family and things like that. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I'm a RAND. Like RAND is it's my name too. And like it's something that you feel like you want to carry on. Like it's just something to be proud of in a sense, especially coming from like being younger and kind of semi-made to feel bad about it. And like I was a pretty shy kid. I'm a pretty shy person still anyway. But you just grow from that and become proud of it. Like they've done amazing things and they've paved a very beautiful journey themselves for us to follow.
Yeah. Well, just one thing I'd like to interrupt you is you can see what they both look like, and both me and old boy here, we're not ready for generation 4 for a while. So enjoy your journey, and anyone out there thinking about the 4th generation, I'm not ready for that yet.
Well, if history's going to teach us anything tonight, in due course, when the time's right, there will be a 4th generation, I'm sure. And what about you, Kristen, like as well, being like the youngest coming in and, you know, seeing your older sister go through it and, you know, how does it affect you?
It was very different, as Kiara said, for us growing up because she had that experience in primary school and not high school. Mine was more in high school. where again, a Catholic high school, teachers don't like that you come from a family of tattoo
That's
artists.
very true, yeah.
You get told in classes that it's wrong and like everything like that.
It's
But
equal.
even though you hear that all the time, you still live with it, a part of your family. Even when we come home from work, it's still a part of our lives. So it's a little bit daunting to have the RAND family name and be a part of that, but it comes with a lot of love and a lot of support, so I can't be any more grateful.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Just on a quick note, we've got Max Chaders commented before that communication's a lost art, and my friend Benji's backed it up. Yeah, I believe it too. Like it is an integral part of what we've all been brought up on, and I'm sure you girls will carry it on for those customers that don't have the headphones in. And I think, you know, it's a lost art, but you also lose an opportunity to talk to someone and to find out about them. And, you know, like some of my customers over the years have become, you know, my best friends. I've been to their weddings, you know, all sorts of stuff. We're in a very blessed position. To be able to welcome into people's lives, and then, you know, we welcome them back into ours. So yeah, that's one of the things I love now more than anything is the human interaction.
And just talking about Benji, I got 2 of Benji's early trad books, and that's what the girls had to look at as reference of
nice.
Yeah, thanks,
and
Benji.
And Benji should know that. Benji should know that. I've told him about that years ago.
Yeah, still have them.
Amazing. Yeah, I've got him up here too. Benji's like so prolific. Like, you know, Benji and I both worked together for the Brenner family on the Gold Coast, you know, 15 plus years ago. And yeah, from that environment, you know, like your shops, it's got such great structure, and I've now brought some aspects of that business into my own. And I remember even like doing like a hand movement, coloring in a tattoo or whatever, and be like, oh, that's one of Paul's moves, that move, you know. And it's nice that things sort of stay with you, and, you know, throughout your career.
Yeah. And the thing that happened with me, and I don't know if this happened in your career, but I didn't get to touch a Magnum needle for like seven years of the first 7 years of my career. It was all round liners, round shaders, and and I remember colouring in many back jobs.
You can't colour in with a Magnum.
Dave.
I had this argument with Paul Braniff many times.
He still colours everything in with a round shader.
That's how he teaches.
With a round shader, man. It takes so long, but it's so saturated.
Paul tried to convince me many times.
Yeah, you can't beat that saturation. That's before. Yeah, I think for me, it must have been at least 5 years before I came across a Magnum. And I got tattooed by Trevor McStay, and he did a Buddha on my lower arm. And then at the end of it, I was like, oh, what's that needle? And he gave me the needle to, like, you know, to learn how to make it. But yeah, before that, I'd never come across it. It was a 3-needle liner and a 7 round.
Oh, that Magnum, making a Magnum is the biggest deterrent.
Yeah. Well, you can just spread around and push it through your t-shirt or a t-towel. Oh, oops, can't say that. Yeah, it's crazy how it's changed. And on a different note, Dave, like, you know, you must obviously be so proud to see the family name flourish, but also just, I know you're still so excited on tattooing. Like, you know, you've come through it from, you know, pretty much the beginnings of it becoming a custom art form to now it's just taking leaps and bounds, and some of the stuff that's coming out is unbelievable.
Well, I think each generation will surpass the one before it.
Yeah.
That's what their job is.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, think about what you're doing. Because it's supposed to do that. Anybody who thinks that they're the top shit in tattooing and they're going to remain there for the rest of their life is kidding themselves.
Yeah.
Because the new generations will surpass it. The only problem that I see is a lot of the old stuff is getting left behind.
Yeah.
They're greater artistic skills, but the craft part of it, they're losing a lot of it.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't know how to make a needle or mix color or do anything. And I think that's part of it. It's part of the magic stuff, you know, like if you could
Yeah.
actually make a needle that tattoos someone well and know the difference between a good one and a bad one or a bad color. We're a bit spoiled now,
Yeah,
you know.
100%. Like what I find, like we might say like say a 5-liner or an 8-round liner. Like I've heard younger generations refer to that needle as an 8RL or a 14RS. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what's this? You know, it's just how terminology changes. Or cartridges
Yeah.
are carts, and yeah, there's so many different new terminologies now that I'm like,
I feel old, but I don't know this.
hey, I do.
I don't know that terminology.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One thing Benji said, yeah, it's losing the magic. I think it is, but you know, like tonight's a great example of keeping the magic alive.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think is getting lost is just sort of like basic morals. You know, and like you said, Dave, like when you opened up, you know, you went and spoke to the closest tattooer to you. You know, I know, you know, I sort of stick to those morals. When I moved into the city, I spoke to, you know, all the shops in the immediate area of me just to say, hey, you know, I got kicked out of my other shop. I'm not doing a street shop. And, you know, everyone was fine. And actually we're like, well, man, I went and told Tony, and Tony's like, as long as you're not doing a street shop, I don't give a fuck. And I'm like, no, mate, I'm not. And he goes to me, you're the first guy that's ever come and spoke to me. And there's like 6 or 7 shops here now, you know, and I went, you know, that's the way it is.
Well, now it seems that I won't go into it, but it's turned very against that now. A lot of people, you can help them out and they'll shit on you. You know, they'll be the one that'll do it to you. What do they say? Teach a bird to fly, and then it'll shit on you. And that's what tattooing's become now. Yeah, with a lot of people, you know, it's a double-edged sword. You want to help someone, and very often they're the ones that will do the dirty on you.
Yeah. I know what I do now with new artists in the studio. I'll be like, all right, I'm going to put you on like a 3-month trial, just to see how you fit, and like, you know, maybe you might not like it here, and we've both got a point to have a conversation and work out whether we're going to go ahead or not. But I always ask, like everyone else that works in the studio, like, how do you feel about this person? Because you don't want to upset the apple cart. You just want to keep the harmony rolling as best you can.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. So Max has just said another comment. He's gone, I've had young guys that didn't know what RS stand for or RL. But I know not many people would even understand the old school BS anymore. All right, so talking about progression of everything, like, can you girls talk to us a little about the cosmetics? Because cosmetic tattooing is on the rise, and if I know myself, if I could get a good cosmetic tattooist at Little Tokyo, I would in a heartbeat. So if anyone's out there, hit me up. So how are you girls finding that? Because again, it's another extension of tattooing, of making people feel happy about themselves.
Oh, well, I do the cosmetic eyebrow tattooing.
With Karen.
With Karen, yes,
yep.
We both do it. Look, it's similar to tattooing in a way, but it's also completely different.
Yeah.
I find there's a lot more pros and cons with cosmetic tattooing. I do like that it definitely can make people feel better about their appearance.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know. There's just some things about it that I'm just so not sure of. I think because I'm also a tattooist and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's like different techniques with it that I personally don't think works well for the skin.
Yep.
I do like that it's semi-permanent because it's on the face, and the skin on the face is completely different and things like that. So you'd rather it fade than be stuck, like you've seen the older ladies with the block eyebrows and things like that, and they're black. So
Yep.
I'm glad that it's transitioned into a semi-permanent pigment.
Yep.
But just some of the techniques that are there, that are with it, I just feel like it's a little bit too harmful for the skin on the face.
Yep. Yep.
And it's very, very hit and miss as well. Like some people's skin just won't take it, and other people's
Yep.
skin will. And like you just don't know until you do it.
Yeah, I know I sprung that question on you, but thanks for your honest appraisal. Like my partner's had her eyebrows done multiple times from different technicians. Sometimes it's amazing, or she'll be like, oh my God, they're too dark. And then they lighten up, and then she's like, oh, they're not dark enough. You know, it must be so hard to, you know, to get that one right.
Yeah, and each individual person's skin is completely different. So you can do someone and it'll be amazing, and it'll be like, it'll heal up, and they're just so comfortable with the whole process because the process is so different in a way to how normal tattoos heal. Or then you have someone and they come back and they panic about the whole process. Their skin didn't handle it because it was too traumatized. There's a lot too much bruising and swelling and things like that, especially in a lot of older women. A lot of older women want it done because they obviously lose their hair and things like that, and over plucking. It's just so hit and miss. I feel like if it was more consistent, everyone's skin on their face was like better, I think it would be an amazing thing. But I think at the moment it's definitely something that still needs work.
Yeah, it's still pretty much, if you look at it as traditional tattooing on other parts of the body, it's still in its infancy. You know, I've got a funny story about an older lady with the black eyebrows. I used to go to the Commonwealth Bank in Surrey Hills 15 odd years ago on Cleveland Street, and she'd always look at me really angry. And I used to think, what have I done? Like, this lady hates me for some reason. I'd always try to be extra polite. And then one day I got her not behind the counter, but out at the front desk. And without the screens there, I clocked it. And her eyebrows were like dark green. And she'd always look at my arms colourful. And I'm like, that's why, you know. But for years, literally, I thought I'd even let other people go in the line in front of me so I didn't have to go to her. So.
But Nationals dark green.
Yeah, there you go. It's been really cool tonight, guys, and amazing. So anything you guys want to say before we sort of finish up and get ready for the next one?
Well, I'd like to thank this old bugger for not hitting me over the head when I told him that he was doing this, because he whinged prolifically about coming. You'd get a conversation out of him, like trying to pull blood out of a stone. And thanks to the girls for going easy on me, because I was really expecting them to really roast me like they do on a daily basis at work. The banter in our shop with them is brutal. Let me tell you, they've been on best behaviour. So thank you. And thank you to my lovely wife for overseeing them and making them behave, because I'm sure she's just with the
She's right over here.
She's right there. Yeah, I can imagine pajamas on, hair up in a bun, looking sexy.
So Karen won't come say hi?
You can stick your hand in.
Hi.
There you go. That's
amazing, but no, it's cool.
Last thing I'd like to say is, I hope that the tattoo industry, as in tattooists themselves, get a bit more organized with apprenticeships. Don't try and make government courses. Don't try and get it put in the hand of colleges and universities, because you will lose control of it. It'll get out of hand. There'll be 1,000 tattooists for everyone there is now. And we are heading towards the sort of maximum load we could carry as far as tattooing is concerned. And whatever people do, don't aim for legalizing or legislation on tattoo apprenticeships. We need to do more work as tattooists ourselves to try and get it a little bit more organized, but don't head down that legislation path.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Dave. And on the 9 o'clock one, we've got to chat, myself, Chris, and Ryan and Alex from Lighthouse. And we're just going to touch on that sort of stuff as well, because if you look at it, like, to be a personal trainer, the personal training scheme or whatever is one of the most popular courses in Australia. Say you might get 10,000 people signing up to become a personal trainer a year or a quarter or whatever. Out of that 10,000, maybe only 200 go on to actually become personal trainers. So if there was a TAFE course for tattooing, it would be the most popular TAFE course ever. And you're just giving people so many unrealistic expectations, but you're also then giving them knowledge, and they're just, if they can't get a job in a shop, they're often tattooing from home or wherever and going to cause way more damage than good.
I think we really need to take that on board. I remember years ago, I tried to sort of bring this up in PTA meetings. And okay, we're all a bunch of pirates and we don't want to agree on anything and we want to do our own thing. That's fine. But if we don't control it, in the next few years, somebody else is going to.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very dangerous thing for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So. All right. Thank you so much, RAND family, legendary family. Thanks everyone for watching. It's been amazing. And I look forward to coming down when I can.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Thanks to Jeremy, Rachel, whoever was on the screen. I could see Benji, Moody chimed in. There was, I was trying to see who was there, but it was going through.
There's been a lot of cool ones. Mooney, Mac,
Troy B.
Troy.
Mahe was there before.
I saw Eddie commented, so shout out to the Smokers boys.
There you go. Skin Tattoo Cream, Inkworks.
And Deb.
Yeah. All of Deb, everybody.
And thanks to everyone who commented. Thanks, Rhys, for having us as well.
Thanks. You can see
It's been my pleasure. All right, everyone. See everyone back at 9 with Chris and Alex and Ryan. Thanks, guys and girls. Bye-bye.
Yeah.